It being 6 o'clock and the motions, or the warrants having been duly posted, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please join me in saluting the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's see here.
Whoa, that's right on time.
Look at that, right on the money.
Sliding in.
Okay, Article 1, to see if the town will vote to rescind a portion of the vote of November 15th, 2024 special town meeting. Article 1, that raised and appropriated $66,564 to group health or take any action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town pass over this article.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Anything to be said? All those in favor signify by raising your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of $7,180 from the fire assistant chief's salary to fire supplies or take any action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $7,180 from fire assistant chief salary to fire supplies.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Anything at all? Madam Moderator?
What kind of supplies? What are
Chief
we
Darren,
looking
can you
at?
answer that?
What are we talking about there?
We are trying to replace hose. We did our hose testing this year, which you guys had approved us to do, and we had catastrophic failures. We are in dangerously catastrophic failures of our hose, which we knew was going to be bad, but it's not that bad. So this is allowing us to buy at least some hose to help get us through, and we're working on a grant to try to replace all the rest of the problems.
Okay, what's the lifespan on a hose?
Anything right now, anything older than 87 is considered no good.
Okay,
So you're talking 37 years is where they're calling it. So we had stuff that was from the 70s,
yeah,
and we had stuff that was newer that before they even pressurized it, just hooking water up to it, it was literally pouring out all along the, and we actually had a total of 8 nozzles that failed.
wow,
So,
okay,
but we're working on a grant right now to try to hopefully replace everything.
What was
excellent.
that year? I'm sorry.
87.
87.
Yeah,
How much per hose?
Depends on the size of the hose. We were able to get a deal to get some of the 4-inch hose at 100-foot lengths for only $600 a length. Normally that goes from anywhere from $750 to $900.
How did that happen that we got that deal?
Luckily, we worked good with our vendors, and the town had ordered some and then decided they didn't want it. So they have it still just sitting, they had it sitting there, and they said just to get rid of it.
or,
And they knew the desperation we were in.
okay. Did that answer your question? All right, thanks, Chief. Is there anything else to be said?
Yeah, is there any warranty on these hoses?
Any warranty?
Yep.
Not at 50 and 37 years, no.
No, on a new hose that you purchase.
On a new hose, I would have to double check, I don't know, I mean, there's some warranty, but if you burn it up in a fire, that's no warranty on that, you know, type of
You
thing.
know, I mean, like, warranty is why it won't burst in a certain number of years.
I'd have to go look it up, I don't recall off the top of my head what kind of warranty it comes with.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, how short are you on an acceptable number of footage of hose versus what you have in stock?
I didn't bring, I was rushing out, I forgot to grab it. We were looking at about $50,000 that we were desperately needed to get, just to get back on the trucks and stuff like that. This gets us a fraction of the portion. But you're looking at 1,000 feet, 8 nozzles, you know. Right now we have no backup, so if all of a sudden, you know, you've got to clean, you go to a fire, we went to a fire the other night, in East Brookfield, and we use one attack line off it. Well, that's gotta get washed, hung and dry, so it doesn't get all moldy and rot, and we're literally taking a couple pieces from here and there to put back on a truck with nothing. And if any of the bigger stuff, if something ever happens, there's no backup. We've got nothing. We don't even have all the stuff we're supposed to have on for NFPA and all the ISO ratings to keep us where we are.
Okay. Anything else to be said? Anything at all? All those in favor signify by raising your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $7,000 from the police career incentive to police overtime or take any action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $7,000 from police career incentive to police overtime.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anything to be said?
Yeah, I do, I have a question, Jim.
Say again?
I have a question.
Okay.
Overtime account, it seems like this, we're seeing that word a lot with the police department, overtime account. This is only December. Is this gonna be like this for the rest of the year?
That I can't answer. Anybody have an answer to
Can
that?
I
Sheila
answer?
has
Yeah,
it.
Sheila. Sure.
Well, Kathy, they've been without a police officer, a full-time police officer since the beginning of the year. And we
Beginning
didn't,
of the year.
The
Yeah,
beginning
not
of the fiscal year.
Fiscal year, okay.
and I believe that the one that just got approved the last night, it will take a little while before he's up to snuff.
Okay.
You know, that he can go out by himself.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that would be tough to cover those shifts. Do we have many part-timers now, I wonder?
No part-timers.
No part-timers at all? Wow. Okay. I remember when we used to have like 8
They
on the
have to
force.
get that in.
Okay, anything else to be said? Anything at all? All those in favor signify by raising your hands. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $100,000 from stabilization to capital stabilization or take any action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $50,000 from stabilization to capital stabilization.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there anything to be said?
Why would,
You go, good checking, huh?
why we do that?
Okay. Who wants to answer it?
Jamie?
We have restarted the capital improvement plan. Thank you, did not come prepared there. As of right now, there is 105,000, so
104.
104,000 in the capital stabilization fund. If there is, well, I'll say when there is a need for capital replacement,
Right?
that's all there is.
So right now, we don't need another 100,000. We'd like to have it. Am I right?
We asked for 100, the selectmen voted to go with 50,000. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking me.
I see this as moving from one pocket to another, and it's in a good pocket already.
Yeah, I think the idea is to start creating a plan for what's coming up and what we're gonna need in the future, and creating this stabilization fund to cover those potential costs.
So we have a need for it, then you're saying?
Right now, that's what the capital improvement plan, or improvement committee is working on, is creating a plan and identifying those needs in the future.
Can I interject here? No, then you're up, Sheila. Can you give a synopsis of what the capital improvement planning
Okay.
stabilization does, or what it's for? And maybe that would solve a lot of
Sure,
problems.
can I simplify it?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. So if you have a rainy day fund for when something happens, your car breaks down, your boiler breaks down in January, that, there is some contingency plan, right? And what in town, we have a history of not addressing that boiler when we know it's 25 years old, when we know it's 30 years old, we don't address it until it's broken, and then the folks who are responsible for the boiler have to come before the finance committee, and somehow, some way, we need to come up with funds to take care of that. What we're trying to do is put together a 5-year plan that goes to the departments in town and say, hey, look, what do you see coming down the pipe? What do you see for replacement of capital coming up? So that way we can plan for it. We are in the beginning stages of that, but clearly $104,000 for a capital stabilization fund is insufficient to do much of anything. And that, the plan, this year is obviously gonna be not much, but as we start to plan out the next 5 years, we can potentially plan for maybe some fire hoses that are from 1987 or older. Before we have a catastrophic failure, before we test them, and before we have a fraction of the hoses that we need to function safely. So we're in the beginning phases of this, and it's kind of a two-pronged effort to start putting the structure together and put the questions out there, number one. And number two is to start squirreling away money to prepare for that. And, we all know the town is in a tough situation with money, and that hence the decision that from 100 to 50,000, because we know that next year's budget's gonna be tough, and we're gonna have to be creative. Okay, all right.
So what, I totally agree with what you're saying. I would like to see this put into the budget, and so we can incorporate it in this year's budget and make it look and see the overall picture, not just this microcosm.
It will be in the budget,
Well,
because tomorrow's meeting
we're
is...
voting right
So
now,
what are you gonna
not to
fund
put it
it?
in the budget, we're voting to move it over there.
Oh,
We're voting
well, I'm
to move
talking
it
about what will
now,
be
not
in the budget.
This is
Will be
pre-budget.
for capital improvements for the next 5 years, or at least in fiscal year.
I like that, I don't like jumping around those right now and doing this. I know it's a small amount of money, but let's have a discipline and a plan and put it in the budget and make it work.
It is very being a discipline to start building a fund to be taking care of our capital needs that have not been provided for in the last 5 years. Just like the police department coming and saying we need 2 patrol cars.
Well, we had, but we used it.
Okay, all right, we discussed it. I've got Sheila next, then you can go. Sheila?
So I guess my question is, having actually worked on the budget for the past 2 years, we have hit stabilization for 300,000. This year, we were fortunate enough to have free cash to put that 300,000 back.
Right.
As a community, we have to stop living off our stabilization.
Correct.
And by pulling this, and I put the 300, I have put it on there specifically because we're gonna need that for the next budget, if we don't need more. You don't wanna get down under $1 million. We've been teetering. It doesn't look good when you borrow when you're under $1 million. We were down at 700,000. We were able to rescind it and put it back, plus. And, we just don't have it. Right now, we can't fund a budget. Never mind capital purchases. Unless, if we can't fund what people need in a budget, then how are we gonna make these capital purchases? We can't maintain anything to what you're saying, the boiler or whatever, because people don't have it in their budget to do maintenance agreements on boilers or any of our capital things. We buy these things new, but we never, ever fund that budget for maintenance on that item.
What do we have? What do we have in stabilization?
$1,034,000.
1.388,
1.3?
1.388, 59685.
1.388.
Not 1.0?
Yes, I sent it to you all.
Yeah, you said.
1.388, 59685, sorry.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Okay, Brandon?
Yeah, the problem is, that the town has no extra source of income. We have no borrowing capacity, that whether the departments can live within their budget, it's not a matter of can they have to. They can't, they need to have a budget that's not gonna be dipping into stabilization. This is for capital needs. Looking back over the last 5 years as far as the capital improvement planning committee, we have been lucky in which we've had extra income. We've had 500,000 from Green Gold. We've had around 500,000 in funds from the pandemic, and then another like $1.4 million from ARPA funds, and everybody's been sticking their hands in those funds like it's a big cookie jar, and those funds are gone and they're not coming back. We need to get to a point where we can save a little money for the future. If we don't, we're going to be in serious trouble. When something comes up that we really need, we're going to be between a rock and a hard place, because we can't just say, oh, we'll do a Proposition 2.5 override, because we don't have that ability. So it's either try to save and try to maintain a budget, or throw up your hands and walk away from the whole thing and watch the town go down the tubes.
Chet?
To maintain discipline, this should come through the FinCom first, before it comes here. It didn't. It
Okay.
should. If it doesn't, why do you got a FinCom?
Anything else to be said?
Well, as I said, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee was put in effect over 5 years ago.
It was under my administration when they put that in.
And if you don't want to have one, then do away with it. If you don't want to plan for the future, then don't. You can't, you know, if you don't want to plan for the future, then do away with the committee, do away with the funds, throw everything in a big pot and keep going into stabilization, because everybody thinks it's there and you can just grab it when you want, and do it that way. You know, it's up to you.
I'd like to comment on that. I don't think any of us feel that way. We know, working on the budget each year, and we know that we've had to dip into stabilization at least two, I can't remember, at least 2 years in a row. At least two, for 300,000. And we've been lucky, we got money back from free cash, yes indeed. But who knows what it's gonna be like the next year? And who knows if it's not more that we have to ask. We know we're gonna have to ask for stabilization, it's probably a given. Is it gonna be 300? Is it gonna be more than 300? That's the worry. Can I use that word? That's the worry.
Well, that's no way to budget a department.
All right,
Or
let's
a town.
not get into a free-for-all here. Come on, let's reel it in.
Well, you can't budget that way and just say, oh, well, you're not gonna make your budget anyway, so just come to stabilization at the end of the year. The town has to get disciplined, whether you have to figure out what we have and just work with it.
Okay, so there's a couple points here.
Okay?
Okay. The comment as far as going through the finance committee, and I apologize, Joe, but there is a finance committee member who is on the
That helps.
capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
So it's not as though capital improvement planning is out on our own, making decisions without the finance committee. And and then maybe that's not what was meant, but I certainly am gonna put that out there. It is in conjunction with the finance
The
committee.
finance committee, the
Okay,
second
come on,
word counts.
let's direct it through the chair here,
The
please.
second word of finance committee is committee,
Okay,
or committee.
all right. Well, we've established it didn't go through the committee, so we can rest on that point. Is there anything
The
else to
other-
be said? Go ahead.
The other part of this is that without a plan, everything is reactionary. And I apologize, Darren, I'm gonna go back to the hoses, okay? Because the hoses is a clear example of not having a plan. And allowing the years to go by and living hand to mouth and not addressing the issue before it becomes a problem. without funding in that capitalization account, there is no plan. There is no planning.
The point is a good one.
But how are you gonna get the money in the budgets to maintain these capital purchases?
It's gonna be something that's part of the forms. Department heads come to capital improvement looking for a capital expenditure. They have to explain how they are going to continue to fund it. It has to be part of their budget, has to be part of the purchase before we take it to town meeting. I hope that, does that help?
Okay, Chet?
I move the question.
It's been moved to question. Is all those in favor of moving to vote to question, please raise your hand. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those that are not in favor of moving to question, please raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, it's on the move to question. So, all that are in favor of this article, please raise your
Point of
hand.
order, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this a 2/3 vote? 'Cause
It is,
probably
it is
not
a
a state-
two-thirds vote, so why don't we do it backwards so we know the easy way out. Those that are not in favor of this article, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Anybody behind the post? 3. No. 3 no. All those that are in favor of this article, please raise your hand. Okay, that carries. So it passes. Just for a point of information here, I was a selectman for 7 years or better back, and I got out in 2007. The capital stabilization, or the capital improvement planning committee was formed under my last 1 or 2 years of my term. At that point, the thought was, well, if we have a capital planning committee, we can figure out where we're going to spend money that we need to spend. And my point of view at that point was that, you know, it was working pretty good up to that point in funding what we needed to fund without the capital planning committee. And that if we are hand to mouth, as many have said, which we were then as well, sure, it's great to earmark something, but when you can't plug any money into it, it's kind of a moot point. And so, and I understand we had, when I was a selectman, an emergency fund. And that emergency fund was there, and it had, and I don't remember the exact amount, but it was enough that you could go through and do an emergency repair. We utilized it one time in the fire department. Darren may remember that, when the boiler went south in the fire station. And we managed to pick up a second-hand, almost new boiler and have it installed there in a matter of days in the middle of winter, and did it through that emergency fund. So it does have a place, but I just wanted to give you, this isn't the first time this has come up. This is nothing new. You know, this town has been hand to mouth for a long time, and we just need to figure out a way to get out of that hand to mouth scenario. So, and now that I've said my piece, I'm going to move on.
Okay.
That was the last one, wasn't it? Okay, is there anything else to be said in front of this meeting? Anything at all? I entertain a motion to dissolve.
So made.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Darren. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much for coming.